This is Scott the Fix-It Guy. Our goal with our videos is to empower you to be able to do the repairs on your own and save a whole lot of money and also get that great feeling of having fixed it by yourself. Today we have a Whirlpool gas oven that is clicking to try to ignite, but it never lights up. Sometimes it does light and then the heat goes out later as it normally would when it gets hot enough, but then it won't light back again. So we're going to get this fixed. We're going to go ahead and move down these little levers on the oven hinges down, and then we're going to push up on the oven supporting it, and we'll pull it off of the hinges to get it out of the way. You don't have to remove the oven door, but it makes it a little bit easier to get to the parts. So set that off to the side, and I like to sit down close in by the oven so I can get to all the parts. I'm going to take out a couple of Phillips head screws so I can get this plate off called the heat deflector, and underneath that is the igniter. And the first thing I'll try, which often works, is just to clean up the igniter. It has some metal parts, and when they get a lot of oxidation on them over time, the spark is not robust enough to really ignite the gas. So by cleaning it, you get a better spark, or a stronger spark. So I'll take out these two Phillips head screws, and if yours is having trouble coming out, what you can try also is just to grab the back of the plate and pull it towards you. So now I'm taking out two Phillips head screws that are holding on the burner tube, one here in the front, and I took out one in the back too that's on the back firewall. Now I'm going to wiggle it out. This is the burner tube, and there's an electrical connector right here that brings power to the igniter. It's a spade connector, so I just pull it off, and now I have good access to the burner. I actually want to remove the igniter from the burner tube, so I'm going to take out two little bolts that are holding it on, and this is going to allow me to get in there and clean it better. And if you don't have an ability to do this, you can actually still clean the igniter. It's just a little harder to get to, so this makes it a little bit easier. I'm going to slip it out of this hole here, and I'm going to look at the burner tube. They call this a Venturi tube or burner tube. I'm going to see if all the little holes on the side where the gas come out are nice and open, and if they're not, you can use a sharp implement to open up all those holes, because that's where the gas comes out and it ignites to give you a nice flame. These look really good though. These look really clean. So I'm just giving this an inspection. I'm looking in this part to make sure it's nice and open. And one thing I'm trying here is to loosen this little screw here on this air-fuel mixture setting, and I'm going to close the setting a little bit so that more fuel can come in to cause better ignition. I'm just going to move it just slightly, like an eighth of an inch, and then I'll retighten it. I'm making it more closed, less of an opening, so less air mixes in, more gas comes toward where it's going to be ignited. Doing that too far is bad because it makes it too rich, and that can cause a yellow flame and carbon monoxide, so I just moved it a tiny bit. I have my wire brush, and I'm brushing this electrode to get it super clean. So this is part of what senses when there is a flame, and also if it's really clean, it helps to produce a stronger spark. So I'm also cleaning the housing where right in front of the electrode, where the spark jumps from the electrode to the metal housing, and just gets oxidation built up over time. I'm also cleaning the surface where the housing connects to the oven cavity, because that is also an electrical connection. We call it a ground connection, and I want to make sure there's no oxidation there. Just getting in there with a wire brush. You could also use some sandpaper. I'm going to slightly bend the housing just a tiny bit closer to the electrode so the spark doesn't have to jump as far. I'm going to spray some electrical cleaner in there on the wire that connects, and then I'm going to spray some where the wire connects to the igniter, and also I'm going to spray some on the igniter probe and the housing, so everything's nice and clean. Put it back into this whole bracket. I'll add those 2 bolts back in that hold it, and we'll put it back in and see if it's better. If that doesn't work, there's other things we can try, but this often works because the first thing you think Occam's razor, what's the most likely explanation, is that it's just gotten dirty over time. If you look down in this hole, this little brass hole here we can see in the picture, that's where gas comes out. You want to make sure that that little tiny hole there is nice and open. So it'd be unusual that there'd be soot in there, but if there is, you can clean that out. I'm going to put the wire back on the igniter, nice and snug. That brings power to the igniter. And then we're going to slip the Venturi tube back down over that brass jet or brass nut. Wiggle it down in there. We'll add those 2 Phillips head screws that hold the burner tube into position, one in the back and one in the front. Those screws in nice and tight. And then with the heat deflector off, you can actually do a test to see if you can hear and see a flame before you put it all back together. This doesn't always work, but it's worth a try first just to clean everything. So we set it for 350, we press start. You should hear a click up at the top near where you see the clock, and that's sending power down to the igniter. And you'll hear the spark module go click, 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 and you should see a spark too down there. If you don't see a spark, most likely either the igniter is broken and the electricity cannot flow, or you may have a problem with the spark module. I can see the one at the top there for the broil. That's working great. So I know I have good gas supply. I know that most of the components are working. But the bake one doesn't seem to want to do it. I can hear the spark module clicking, but I don't see a spark.
I'm sorry?
He was saying that one of the things that will happen is that...
So what I ended up doing is taking it back out, and then I put in a new spark igniter, and we'll put a link in the description below the video where you can order one of those. They're pretty cheap.
Okay.
I put it in the same way I did when I was cleaning it. So you can also pull out your broiler pan and then look underneath and make sure that the wire that brings power to the igniter is intact. Like sometimes a mouse or a rat will actually chew through the wires, but this brown wire actually looks pretty good. It's not very clean down there, but that wire looks good. It looks intact, no chew marks. Just something to check, because if you're not getting power to the igniter, sometimes there's something wrong with the wire. So after putting in the new igniter, it did light up really good. I tested it over and over, and every time I asked for it to go to bake, within a few seconds it fired right up. One thing I noticed though is when I did a heat test, I put it all back together and I set it for 350. I'm just putting the heat deflector back in again. So I put it in the front, and then in the back I'm going to push it down. It has a couple of slots it fits into. That just dissipates the heat, so it's more of an even heating of your oven. I'm going to put those 2 Phillips head screws back in to hold that in position. Put the lower panel back in. I'm going to put a couple of screws in at about 45 degrees in the back to hold it. And while it's waiting to heat, I'm just cleaning the front burner real quick, because one of the burners wasn't lighting. I'm using my wire brush to clean the top of the burner, and then I'm also using the wire brush to clean the underside of the burner cap where it touches the top of the burner. That has to be a really good electrical connection, because that's part of the ground connection where the spark jumps to the burner cap, and if that's corroded, you'll have a weak spark. It may not actually spark at all. So I clean that up really good. Then I use some of the electrical cleaner. I get those at Home Depot. There we go. That's a nice strong flame now. Lights right up. In the electrical section, they just call it electrical cleaner. So it looks really good. So now during the heat test, it would light up, it would heat up to the proper temperature, but it wouldn't light again. So I think what's going on is in the back there's a spark module. This big panel here with these green things, those are relays, is having trouble. So I'm going to pull these two wires on the right off and switch them, the broil one with the bake one. And I'm keeping the green wire where it was, but I'm going to switch these two wires. I'm going to push them back in. And now the relay that was being used for broil, which is in good shape, is now sending power for bake. So now the bake fires up every time, and also it holds the heat really good. So that's something you can do too. Eventually though, if you wanted to use bake and broil, you could just get a new circuit board spark module and put that in. We'll put a link in the description below for that too. But I hope this helps you to get your oven going again. Just put it back together. And thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for watching our video. We really appreciate your support. And when you get a chance, please press the subscribe button below so you can be subscribed, and also the notification bell so we can send you more videos about appliance repair. Please also give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. If you really liked the video and it really helped you, please press this new applaud button and you can show your support and also get a nice clapping hands for your video. Thanks again.